What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in one more time. Just to introduce everybody again, I'm Prince.
I'm Taj.
Bigi.
And we're going to be talking about what our top 5 favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe films are.
We might be going like if we might go to.
We might go down some tangents.
Yeah, we'll see.
So let's start.
Wait, hold up. Do you think we should talk about our least favorite first, really quick? Anybody want to say anything? I have a couple. I can name about 4 or 5.
Why don't you start then?
All right. Well, I almost have the full ranking of all 22 of them. There's a couple in the middle that are a little dicey. My top 12 is solidified pretty much.
Wow. Okay.
But like my top 3 or worst are pretty solidified.
Okay.
So the worst is by far Thor: The Dark World. If I was to say one MCU movie that I genuinely hate, it's probably that movie. And I don't.
Wait. Why?
Why? Okay. I think it's a failure on every level, and I don't want to hate on it. But the movie was so bad that it made Chris Hemsworth be like, I don't really know if I want to be Thor anymore. It's because they give him nothing to do. So you get that coupled with this horrible villain, this boring plot, it's boringly shot, all this stuff, and then the only good part about it is Loki, and he's not even that much of the movie, and then you get yourself a pretty boring movie. And number 21 and 20 for me are probably
I don't even remember that movie.
There you go. This is the one movie that if I end up rewatching these movies again, which I will at one point, I genuinely might skip it. I've seen it 6 times technically. It's the only movie I've ever seen above 2 times, and I've never stayed awake in. So yeah, a couple statistics there. And then 21 and 20 are probably like Captain Marvel and Ant-Man and the Wasp. Not a big fan of either of those movies.
Okay. And why Captain Marvel?
I just don't I don't want to hate. I just don't think she's a very well written character. Like Brie Larson's an Oscar winner, so and I don't think her acting's awful, but it's also just very emotionless. And that's I think the problem with Thor in the early MCU movies is that he doesn't feel very much like an authentic person. So then you get this performance that just feels a little weird to watch because you're nobody acts like that, And then it feels a little inhumane because your favorite superheroes they act like humans, like regular people, and so their problems are problems you can kind of relate to, and Captain Marvel doesn't really have that.
And Ant-Man.
It's just
Ant-Man and the Wasp or
Ant-Man and the Wasp. I like Ant-Man actually quite a bit, but it's just a pretty dull movie overall. But all right, let's get to our top 5. You want to start?
So my top 5, I don't have them in any particular order, but it is the most recent Endgame, the Infinity War, Civil War, the first Iron Man, and the first Captain America.
Captain America, the first Avenger. Yeah, I think that's a respectable. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I like to know.
Judge my list, please.
Well, here's what
tell
I'd
me
say.
What you guys
we
think
could say
about
where we put the movies on our list, because I'll say that 3 of your movies are in my top 5 solidified.
Yeah,
they could be my 3 favorite.
Are those the Avengers?
No, Civil War, Infinity. Well, Civil War it's a Captain America movie,
Okay.
but it's it's close to Avengers. But those are honestly made my top 3. I don't want to spoil my list just yet, but they're somewhere in the top 5. I'll say Iron Man 1 is a little lower. That's not it. I don't really honestly. My top 11 MCU movies are pretty much movies I don't have many complaints about. I think it's a testament to how many good movies they can make. Especially they'll be churning them out year after year, but they stay consistently great. Sometimes even spectacular, and it's pretty impressive to me. The first Captain America is a movie that every time we watch it, I love it more. When I first watched it, it's kind of how I felt. I walked in, same way I used to feel about Superman when I was younger. I hated on Captain America and Superman. They were both such corny characters, and they felt very one note. But I think you say it when you're younger, because when you're younger, you don't really care more about the characters. You care about how cool they are. That's why when you're a kid, you love Batman. You love Spider-Man. Spider-Man's not cool, but he's very likable. And you like those characters more. And when you get older, you might start to like, the simple. And I still love Batman and Spider-Man. Those are my 2 favorite heroes. But I grew, especially with Steve Rogers. I love him in that movie. And, besides the fact that I think the last act of that movie is a little meh, I don't think there's many complaints I could have. Chris Evans is pretty phenomenal too, that movie.
So interesting.
Iron Man 1, what do you think of that?
Iron Man 1 for me, it wasn't going to make my list, but it's the importance of it. It's kind of if it didn't do well, and if it really set up the whole thing, Jon Favreau and his directing, if it would have failed, we wouldn't be here talking about
That's a good
Marvel.
point.
And so I always take importance into account for that.
That's true.
It's not one of my favorite movies, but at the time, I loved it. And I thought that, oh my gosh, if there's more of these, I'm definitely.
Well, here's what I think. I watched them. Okay, that's one of the 3 MCU movies I didn't watch in theaters. I did watch Iron Man 1 in theaters. I don't know if I even saw it with you. I was 6 at the time. He was like 11, and I think I had to leave or something. But like that, along with the first 2 Thor movies, are the only movies I haven't seen in theaters. So I can't really say what I remember like seeing it for the first time. Okay. And I rewatched Iron Man 1, and like I thought it was good, but I didn't get like why people love it so much. And upon rewatches, I also like that movie more. I don't really. It's one of those movies that I can't really explain why like it's so great. It's just like it's a pretty simple movie, and it's just a pretty great movie. And like it really comes down to Robert Downey Jr. because if he fails, everything fails, and he couldn't be better in that role. I mean. Like I think that's one of Iron Man's best, or one of Robert Downey Jr.'s best goes. Iron Man. I said in the last video, his best goal was Endgame to me because it felt like a very, I don't know what to call it, like conclusion type performance. But this one is his first performance, and he goes through such a strong character arc from being this kind of arrogant guy who like deals weapons to this superhero kind of. And I really do like the first Iron Man. It's a little lower for me though.
Lower for you, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not my top 5, but definitely I just want to. I mean, I do respect it for that reason.
Do you have any other movies that like were close to the top 5 that were like just missed out?
Well, I think just to keep it on topic, how about you say your top 5?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, well, I don't have an order right now.
Yeah.
Definitely Endgame, Infinity War, Civil War.
Ooh.
I'm fluctuating right now because Guardians of the Galaxy I really like.
Okay,
so
I was good.
It's like it squeaks in and squeaks out.
Yeah.
But there's something about that because I underestimated that movie.
Oh my god.
Tremendously.
That's I thought that trailer looked so bad.
I thought that this is the one that they're gonna screw up with. And it's gonna kill the whole franchise.
No, it's true.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you gotta give us another one, man.
I wasn't counting. Was that 4?
That was 4, but he said Guardians of the Galaxy squeaks in and squeaks out.
Yeah. I don't have a top 5. I mean, I loved Thor Ragnarok.
Okay, yeah.
But I loved it for it being different, and I loved it.
It's a very fresh movie.
And it had a lot of that Guardians of the Galaxy feel.
I agree. Yeah.
But it had bigger challenges because it had to do a 180 on the Thor character.
Yeah. Well,
and it worked.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this before I get into my top 5 because I knew my top 5 kind of before we went into this, and and I will say that some movies that aren't in my top 5 that I still really like are the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. To me, and I know this might be an overstatement to some people, but I think it's Marvel's greatest achievement, even more than the first Avengers, because to take Rocket, Raccoon, and Groot, who says 3 words, and to make them household names to where kids love it, it's that it's not easy to do that because kids are still not even liking Superman from these DC movies. Yeah. Not to jab at DC or anything, but it's
I know.
They're making,
I agree.
Yeah, they're making Star-Lord, and it's such a likable movie, and it's one of the few movies that I've seen that has both a great score and soundtrack. Yeah. The idea with the Walkman and stuff is awesome. The song choice is great. Mm-hmm. It's the whole cast is just super charismatic. It's a very good-looking movie. The action's good. It's just a very great movie, and it's a movie I can very much rewatch. And then I also would say, Black Panther and Thor Ragnarok are 2 movies that I really like. Mm-hmm. I think Black Panther, it has some interesting ideas in it. It has a really good villain. The only thing I would say I complain about that movie is that I didn't love Black Panther, that movie. I think he could have been done a little better, but I still think it was a very good movie.
You don't think he had an arc?
I think he had an arc, but I don't think it was fleshed out enough. I think his arc in Civil War was a little better. And like you said about Thor Ragnarok, that movie just is, it's crazy. There's just so much stuff. You got Jeff Goldblum just being Jeff Goldblum. You got these crazy colors, and the score is really cool. It's just it's a very fun movie.
It's a comedy, which is
it
crazy.
Is. Yeah, and Chris Hemsworth is one of the best comedic actors right now. I just think his timing and stuff is great. And like you said about the 180, that movie had some big challenges to make, and it pretty much fixed all Thor's problems in one movie, making him so likable, but also kind of cool. And I love that movie.
Yeah, because he was definitely a character that was not even in my top 10 of Marvel, and that's after 3 movies of watching Thor. I was okay, but then it made him cool and likable.
Yeah, I would say another movie that I think all 3 of us like was Spider-Man: Homecoming. You guys like that movie?
I was wondering if that counted.
Yeah, no, listen, when you get MCU, they have these big movies, they have the small movies, but they also have the genre movies. Mm-hmm. Ant-Man's very much the heist movie. Winter Soldier's a spy movie. Mm-hmm. like you said, Thor Ragnarok is kind of a comedy. And Spider-Man Homecoming it's a high school movie.
Yeah.
There's a couple of stakes, but it's also not like the hugest stakes, like the world's gonna blow up or something. I mean, the Vulture, who is one of the best MCU villains, he's pretty much Walter White with this like bird suit. He's trying to make some money for his family, and like. Michael Keaton's great. The scene where he finds out he is Spider-Man in the car, that was a great scene. And it's also just Tom Holland's like, I mean, you can't get much better than that.
That was perfect casting.
Perfect casting.
To me, and that's the thing. And it's like, I think that's the thing with Marvel. It's perfect casting. Usually. That's the one thing, and I'll probably get in trouble with that, but Captain Marvel, I don't feel was perfect casting.
That's like the one fair thing point. You're allowed to critique it.
I know, but it's I'm trying to be nice here. But
I
wanted to like the movie.
No, I did too. I don't like. I just like walked out and I was like, I mean, but it also does have an unfortunate. Maybe I would like it more if I saw it 4 years ago. But it also has an unfortunate place, as in it's like a lot of like it's the MCU's first prequel. And it's also an MCU movie that is the 21st movie. So it might be at a time where people like, I'm getting fatigued, or like, how are they gonna switch it up? And both Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel were two movies that I watched, and the entire time I was in my head like, what's gonna happen to the next Avengers movie? And now that I've seen that Avengers movie, like. Those movies kind of got worse for me too. But they've done a relatively good job, with like kind of just pushing the story forward. And I hope they, kind of improve her character. But I think I'll say my top 5 now. That's it. So for me, it would be 5 First Avengers, 4 The Winter Soldier, which neither of you guys had, which I thought was interesting.
We didn't have Winter. I didn't.
No.
I thought you said your list, buddy.
I know. That's why I was stalling with the top 5. Winter Soldier definitely is.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
No, yeah, and then 3 Civil War, 2 Infinity War, 1 Endgame. I will say this: I can see how people like Infinity War more than Endgame. I'm not even hating on those people. I love Infinity War. I've seen it so many times, and like it doesn't get old. And I just think the reason I like Endgame more is I think Endgame people like more for the people who have watched more Marvel movies. I know a couple of people who watched Infinity War because it was a popular movie, and without seeing other Marvel movies, and they were like, that was just an entertaining movie, And like. With Endgame, you get like an hour of this movie for this blockbuster franchise that is like it's like a drama. There's like a little scene of action in Tokyo and when Thanos dies, but besides that, it's just people dealing with their lives, and that's what goes back to the thing I was saying about like the human aspect. Marvel's characters feel like humans, and they all deal with it in different ways. Hawkeye and Thor's lives kind of just plummet; they get so much worse. Captain America and Black Widow. Want to improve the situation. They don't have any way to do it. And Thor and Iron Man and Banner kind of move on and get better lives. And then you get a second hour of the movie, which is just insanity. It's time travel. It's really fun and enjoyable. And the last act of the movie is just it's more insanity. And I really like that. What would you say about the first Avengers? Would you guys? Why was it on it? Why was it on your lists?
Why wasn't
First Avengers?
Yeah.
I'll tell you why it wasn't on my list. It wasn't on my list because I forgot Winter Soldier. I really like that movie just a lot better. So one of them had to get off the list.
So wait, your list now is Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, Winter Soldier.
And I'm still fluctuating between the Thor Ragnarok and Guardians of the Galaxy. Those are
competing for 5.
Yeah, those are competing for 5.
And then Avengers would be 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, definitely. Because I mean, it was incredibly made in terms of that. It was like a team up, in that way. And I love Joss Whedon anyway.
Yeah, does a great job.
But I don't know. It's just the Russo brothers and stuff. Is
Those are their 4. I mean, both me and Taj, our top 4 movies are the Russo brothers. Your top 3 movies are by the Russo brothers. Like it shows. Through a lot of people's favorite MCU movies, I've heard multiple people say Civil War. I've heard people say Winter Soldier. I've heard people say Infinity War. I've heard people say Endgame. It shows when you make quality films, people like them. It's like they've made so many good movies. And I'll tell you why. I was actually very much debating over which did I like more between Winter Soldier and Avengers. Because as a film, I'd say the Winter Soldier is the best Marvel movie because it's just, I think, the best film. But like, the Avengers, I still love it. And I watched the movie, and it always worries me, like, is this movie going to age poorly? Because it has some corny stuff and whatnot. But I loved it. I watched it yesterday, and, I was like, this movie still holds up. The Battle of New York, like, at the time, like, now it's still fantastic. It's probably a top 5 MCU action sequence. But, like, even today, it's crazy. Like, I always will get hype whenever I'm watching like the Hulk say I'm always angry, turn to the Hulk and they get in their circle.
Yeah.
Like that was a moment for cinema where it
Yeah.
kind of changed because people were like this is like 6 movies coming together, and then this new one it's 22 movies, so it gets bigger. But the MCU, it's never. I don't know if it's quite as enjoyable or like charming as it is in the first Avengers. Plus Loki is in it, and he's great. So yeah, but I think the reason the Russo brothers for me get the top spot are that there are other movies with great characters, great action, but I think they hit those emotional beats.
It's human stories.
It's human stories, and it's very much people dealing. They made 2 Captain America movies and 2 Avengers movies, and the Captain America movies are both very much to me about this guy who pretty much has no flaws in his character, Captain America, dealing with a world that is flawed, and I think that's something that's very interesting. And they, especially with Iron Man Civil War, he's deeply flawed, and so in Endgame he kind of gets to fix his flaws and go out like a hero.
Yeah, do you guys think that? I mean, I'm very hard on Captain Marvel, but it's also because I love Wonder Woman so much. Even though that's a DC thing, but I think I was constantly comparing it, and one has a very developed character, and you kind of root for them. The other one I felt like it was just not even overpowered. It's almost like I was watching a video game of her just destroying things, and it's like I never felt like she was in danger.
I'll say this.
Ever.
I'll say this.
In that movie,
I don't. Oh, sorry. I was saying I don't know if I feel the same way about the danger thing. I mean, like, it wasn't very like intense or anything, but I will say that Captain Marvel, along with Iron Man 2, and maybe like the second Avengers, Age of Ultron, are 2 movies for me, or that's 3 movies for me that I think could have been a lot better if they just focused on less things. I think Captain Marvel has like the whole idea of the prequel in the 90s. It has the idea of S.H.I.E.L.D. in its early days. It has the idea of the Skrulls. It has like 3 villains, like the Supreme Intelligence, and then she turns out to be the girl, which I don't even understand that really. It has the whole thing with Captain Marvel, her past, the MCU in total, and it felt very like a little messed up to me. It has like her people, the Star Force, and it's like that stuff to me. It just got a little cluttered, and it didn't make for a very enjoyable movie. I'll say the best scene in that movie to me is the post-credit scene. When I got to see Steve Rogers, and I was like, oh yeah, like 1 month.
Yeah.
But I don't.
But I think because the Starfleet and all that space stuff has always worked. It worked for Star Wars, and it did work in human storytelling as far as emotions go. And that's probably where they dropped the ball a little bit for Captain Marvel, because I felt like her backstory was completely kind of just thrown in there. Like, oh, we forgot, and let's throw it in there. She got all her powers in a plane crash.
Well, here's the thing. Captain Marvel is pretty arrogant. Like, she's kind of like a
very
hardhead.
cocky, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like in the Avengers, like they're like, "Where are you going?" To kill Thanos, and like that. I'm cool with that because I think it's good for characters to have that. Like Thor had that in the first movie, where he's super cocky, he's this warrior, but he has a full arc in that one movie, and then like. By the time we are like the
but
fifth,
he also has a difficult time getting things done. You know what I mean?
No,
She's like,
I'm
I'll
saying
get it done.
The first Thor movie,
go
not really. That's the thing.
done.
Like, but then he gets his hammer taken away, so he does have a difficult time. So you're right. Captain Marvel, like the whole movie is kind of like blah blah this, and then she gets her power. And the third act of the movie, I did not like it. It felt like just so much CGI, but it like Marvel uses plenty of CGI. It's what they do. But like I can see what's going on and I'm enjoying it. It was literally her flying through like starships. Just,
well, that's what I'm saying. I didn't feel like she ever was in danger at that point.
I agree, and I felt like the comedic stuff in the movie, it didn't work for me. And I think most Marvel movies are pretty funny for the most part. There's only a couple that I don't think land the comedy, but some of the jokes for me they didn't land. And I didn't love Captain Marvel.
I did like the cat though, and but I was kind of a little disappointed. That's how Nick Fury lost his eye. I
think you.
I thought it was kind of funny too.
Yeah, I mean it was funny, but like for a quick second, and then you're sitting there, you're like, do you remember that line of the Winter Soldier where he's talking to Captain America, and Captain America's like, do you trust anybody? He's like, last time I trusted somebody, I lost an eye, and I was like, oh, it was like some Russian spy. It was a cat.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't a cat. I don't remember what it was.
Like whatever that thing is, I forgot what it's called. All right, I think you'll agree with this. In Solo, the Star Wars movie, when they do stuff like that, explain stuff.
Jumping around right now.
No, I mean this is related. Listen. You're gonna agree. In Solo, when they show how Han Solo gets his name, it was one of those things where I was like,
I think a lot of people.
I did not need to hear that.
Yeah, they didn't want to know. I think there's certain things that are nice to not know.
Yeah,
like in your own head you think, but when they explain everything and it's like I don't know. I don't want to be too hard, but It's like
I don't want to be hard on it, but like, I mean, I guess we should stop ragging on Captain Marvel and get back to why we like these movies. You guys want to talk about?
I like Captain Marvel in Endgame though, pretty much.
Yeah, she was cool. The one thing, I'll say this at the very end before Tony does the little gauntlet thing and gets the switcheroo. Captain America and Thor jump on Thanos, and Thanos jumps him off, and then Captain Marvel stops him, and he throws her off, and then she comes back again. And I was like, hold up, you have like 50 characters on this battlefield, and you chose Captain Marvel twice? Like, I was like, really? Come on, guys. Like, couldn't the Hulk punch him just once? Like, the Hulk, who everybody was waiting. Hulk was with this little injured arm on the battlefield, like, punching these little goons. Yeah. Captain Marvel fought him twice. And it was dope when he took the stone out and, like, hit her with it. Yeah. But I was like, you gave, like, her the spotlight twice at the end of this movie. In Captain America and Thor, those are, like, two of the absolute best characters. It felt a little annoying, but I'm not going to do all that because that was a great moment. The one part, I think we said this the last time, the headbutt. And people in our audience, like, yeah. And I was like,
why were people losing their minds over the haircut and the different outfits? I never understood.
The haircut is because
was it a big deal? Yeah, but I don't think it was. It was cool.
Changes haircuts.
No, it was cool. Like, it wasn't a big deal. People losing their mind. Who made it a big deal?
Well, on my Instagram feed, the people make it a big deal.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, people were clapping. The haircut.
Really? I mean, it's a cool haircut. I saw it and I was like, oh, she got a haircut. Like, interesting. But I mean, listen, I hope Captain Marvel ends up in a good place. Along with Black Panther and Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. He's kind of the new ambassador of Marvel. So I hope they get it right. But if something like that happens again, I'm just going to be like, I don't know what to do. Because if the Thanos dude who comes in your first movie, beats up the Hulk in like 30 seconds and shows why he's so dangerous, headbutts this girl, and she just like stands there, I mean, who's going to beat her then? Yeah. That's what it feels like.
But here's the other thing is because Disney got Marvel now, there could be that change.
What?
Where they're going to lose some core aspect of what it was before Disney got involved.
Okay, but
we both disagree about the Star Wars thing, but we cannot say that the new Star Wars are the same as the old Star Wars.
Oh, you're saying we disagree about how good they are?
Yes.
Oh, you like the new Star Wars movies?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't really like them either.
But you want.
I like the Force Awakens.
There's something that changed there because they're going for a more family-oriented position. Which Captain Marvel might be great for.
I think you're forgetting though that Disney got Marvel like 2009. I think a lot of people thought they got it recently. Disney's had Marvel for a while, but and they don't really get involved. They had this one CEO guy who kind of was messing stuff up. I don't think we should talk about that, but like Disney is, I'll say, for all the bad things they've done with Star Wars, I am happy that they have indeed, done a good job at letting Marvel people do what Marvel does, especially Kevin Feige, and like they respect him so much because also like he doesn't just make great movies; he brings in the dough, as we can see from Endgame. So but I will say Captain Marvel, I don't think we say
the beginning of the new. That's what I'm saying is this could be the first step, because now all these contracts are running out. We're gonna start.
We still have Black Panther, Spider-Man, and Strange.
What are we gonna do with them?
What do you mean? I mean,
Black Panther.
What do you think we're gonna do with them?
I don't. That's what I'm asking.
Are you a screenwriter?
I just thought of something in terms of like some of these other characters. They were introduced a movie before, like Spider-Man was
Civil War.
Yeah.
So Black Panther too.
Yeah, and maybe that's what bothers me because I was slowly introduced to him, and then I was like, oh, I want to see now. But maybe that's what bothers me about Captain Marvel. It was almost like
somebody needed to take down that shit, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like
that
she
was
just
a lot of firepower.
Listen, I don't want to hate on Captain Marvel, and I'm glad they have a strong character. They didn't really explain why she's so strong, but like the fact that she is so strong, it's gonna cause some problems for the Avengers movies in the future. Like we gotta stop this person. Captain Marvel comes in. And the way I think they're going to go around that is be like, oh, she has other things to do because she, fights on other planets.
Stuff like kryptonite, where it's a piece of shard of the.
I kind of would like if they did do that to like depower her because they need something.
Yeah, but I hope it's not something that
stupid.
Simple,
Yeah, well, I'll just say this: Spider-Man and Black Panther are my two favorite of the new Marvel cast. I do like Doctor Strange too, but those are my two favorite. Black Panther just kind of oozes coolness, and Spider-Man is very likable. He feels like a teenager, which Spider-Man is. And I think in this next movie, Far From Home, he's gonna mature, sort of, and kind of become more of that adult Spider-Man. But like both of those characters were introduced in Civil War, and like I don't think there was anybody who didn't like them in Civil War. People complain about both of them in their solo movies, but not in Civil War. That's got to be a testament to the Russo brothers and like how good they handled both of those. Black Panther had like a full character arc. He's in like 10 minutes in Civil War. And Spider-Man's in like 7 minutes. And they both just are fantastic. Like, and I think that shows something about the Russo brothers. So should we talk about Civil War?
But it also goes back to the casting, is how they do really good cast.
Yeah.
And before we move on, I would like to say I do think that is her name Brie Larson.
Brie Larson.
She is casted very well as far as appearance.
I think she's
goes
a bit
for
good.
the role.
I don't think she's been good in good direction.
Yeah.
They told her not to show emotion. Can I blame her for that?
Possibly the writing and stuff like that. But as far as like her role for it, I think is very well.
Yeah, I mean, she is an Oscar winner. You can never say an Oscar winner is a bad actor, but let's just see what happens in the future. You guys want to talk about Civil War? Why we all had that so high?
Real quick, because I think Brie Larson, Captain Marvel has had the same problem that Thor had, where it's like when they play so.
Doesn't feel human.
Yeah, it doesn't feel human. You don't connect with it. That's all.
There's a small thing. I'll just add on to that.
Yeah.
This will be the last thought on that topic.
I know, yeah.
There's a line that Thor said. I was watching the first Avengers, and I was like, they did not know what to do with some of these characters at the beginning of the MCU. And the only person who they kind of got right away was like Iron Man, and then maybe like
Captain America.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay. They did. No, they did. But in the first Avengers, even Captain America is like this corny old man, and he's not supposed to be that. Like he is corny.
Yeah,
he is. But trust me. Watch the movie, you'll be like, this guy's lame. And it's not lame in a good way. Thor speaks like a Shakespeare. No, you know I'm the cat man, but like. And Thor says this line, and I started dying laughing. He's like talking to Loki. He's like, "You recompense for your imagined slights. The throne would suit you ill." And I was like, "What is this?"
Well, Phoenix here, guys, we're gonna take a quick.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back with it. All right.
Well, so why do we like Civil War so much? We know. All right. Here's the wait. Before I continue the question, Infinity War and Endgame are such big movies that they're hard not to like. You know, they have so much spectacle. But Civil War's in all the MCU movies, it's a very personal story about just two men who are at an ideological difference, and they're friends, and they just kind of have to fight about it. And I think it's a very interesting story. There's a lot of great characters in that movie besides Tony and Steve.
I actually with the Russo brothers, I just love how they juggle a lot of people. The ensemble. They do it better than anyone.
So
I think
true.
that's what it is. I mean. If you really think of Endgame and Infinity War, how many characters there were in this, and it felt like everyone was justified to be there.
Well, I'll say this: Civil War. And again, not to dig at DC, but Civil War came out 2 months after Batman vs Superman, which a lot of people consider to be a failure. Now, I don't hate that movie. I don't think it's a great movie. I don't despise it. There's some things I like.
How many times have you seen it?
I didn't like it at all.
I mean, you just said, but this whole time you've been saying how many times you've seen other movies. I'm just interested in how many times you've seen.
Twice.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw it one time when it came out, and I saw it one time actually really recently because I wanted to rewatch it. Listen, that movie had a lot of stuff in it. Like, it was trying to set up so much that it kind of struggled to become its own movie. And you're shaking your head. Listen,
I like Captain Marvel better than Batman.
No. Batman vs Superman is better than at least 5 MCU
I'm sorry.
movies.
When you have DC characters like Batman and Superman, you should not be making that kind of a movie.
The warehouse scene.
But also their casting hasn't been up to par.
It hasn't, but all right, listen, the warehouse scene alone of Batman vs Superman is probably better than Captain Marvel for me. But did you forget that scene?
I thought you said Captain America.
Oh no, stop. All right, listen, Civil War. Since we're back on it.
Back on track.
Civil War had a lot of things to do too. First of all, to set up this difference, kind of set up Infinity War, and then it introduced Black Panther and Spider-Man. Yeah. Two characters who people were insanely hyped to see. Like, this has been hyped up for a long time. Spider-Man, instantly charismatic. I think the scene where he meets Tony Stark and they're kind of just talking, and it's one of the most entertaining and just well acted scenes in the whole MCU. Black Panther, I like him more in that movie than I do even his own movie. Chadwick Boseman was so good. Black Panther himself, just the movement stuff, he was very cool physically. And then the scene where he kind of completes his arc and forgives Bucky because he doesn't really he thought that Bucky killed his dad, but he learns that it was Zemo. That was just a fantastic scene. But that movie, it's full of those fantastic scenes, not just great action scenes, of which that movie has plenty of, but it has those scenes where it's just two people who have been through so much together that it hurts them to do this. It's like when you're with your family or your friends and you argue about something, you don't have fun doing that, but it's something that I think a lot of people can relate to, and it goes back to that human thing we were talking about. One of my favorite scenes in that movie is when they're at this government facility, and Steve is kind of like a fugitive, so he's being held there, and he's talking to Tony, and they're kind of starting to agree after this movie, and it's about halfway through, and they're starting to kind of agree, and then he says this thing that Scarlet Witch Wanda has been like at the Avengers facility and she's not allowed to leave. And Captain America just starts getting mad because he's like, "Oh, she's a kid, you know, you shouldn't treat her like that." And he's like, "Well, she's actually like super dangerous." And that type of stuff to me just feels very interesting because it shows there are clear differences in character, but also like it makes it seem like plausible for like these arguments to happen.
Mm-hmm. They're earned.
They're earned.
Yeah. I think that's if we're comparing to DC, which is not what this is about, but I think that was the problem. What I had a problem with Batman versus Superman and
they wouldn't even talk
and
to
Justice League. It's like it didn't feel earned to me. And I think that's the main thing to mention Captain Marvel. It just doesn't feel earned. You know, I'm all about it. You know,
arc completion. I mean, yeah. Thor's entrance in Infinity War. I know it kind of happened, but that scene, it was so earned because it was all leading up to that.
Which scene?
In Infinity War, when they're in Wakanda, and they're all kind of getting overwhelmed. Thor enters to the Avengers scene. That was like the most exciting moment in that movie. People were clapping and cheering. It was very earned. That whole movie, Thor's been struggling. It starts with him in the worst spot possible. He loses his brother. He's already lost so much. And he goes on his hero's journey. And he comes in and he's like, you know, I'm here now. And like, I've completed it. And like, Captain Marvel. That Captain Marvel, was it?
Burrito, so good.
Thank you for telling me.
Do you worry about like, you know who Adam Warlock is?
I do.
Do you worry, because it seems like we're getting to now Marvel phase where it's just like, it's going to be powerful and more powerful and more powerful. And it's like,
Who's Adam Warlock?
He is. You want to explain?
No,
Because his last name is insane.
He's
basically this dude. I've only read a couple comics with him. He's a big player in Infinity War, the comic.
This is a character, not a behind the scenes.
No.
I thought this guy was serious. Like that was his real last name.
So he like control. That would be a cool last name. He controls the Soul Stone, kind of, and he's like powers. And so he's a big player.
I thought that was Red Skull that was the key.
Well, no, in the movies. I'm talking about this comics.
Oh,
so
okay.
he has kind of, and so basically in Infinity Gauntlet, the comic, Thanos is like the big villain. And Infinity Gauntlet is basically like Infinity War, the movie. There's a lot of differences, but I mean in story about Thanos getting the stones, doing stuff. Infinity War, the comic, is about Thanos already gets defeated, and then Adam Warlock comes in, and he gets his twin, and it's this whole crazy like thing. But Adam Warlock, like you said, he's pretty ridiculously strong. But I think there's two types of powerful. There's Captain Marvel, Thor, and Hulk, where they're punching people and they're strong. And then there's Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, Adam Warlock, where they're like, if you shot them in the head, they'd probably die.
Yeah.
But like, they also can put you in like another dimension or something, you know? And like, so I think it's two types of power, but I don't think it should ever get too bad. Because if you introduce strong villains, then you don't need to worry about the heroes being, too strong.
Yeah, but then you have people like Falcon that like, then they look underpowered. That's the problem.
But it back tens.
Yeah,
listen,
but that's the problem. Like, there has to be a balancing act. Like, I think they've done it so well up to this point.
Okay, well they have, but they've also like there are going to be less powerful characters. You know?
Of course,
nobody wants it to be.
But then at some point, like, what is it not a superhero? I'm going to be honest. Scarlet.
So Batman's not a
Johansson, she's kind of getting on that verge where
she's dead. So
well, she's getting a pre.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
We already know.
Listen, then Batman's not a superhero, and I would never ever say that my entire life because
he's super rich.
But he is. You can't say. First of all, superhero doesn't have a single definition. It's about being a hero. Second of all, Batman is.
Well, I think it does have a definition because there's the word super before hero, and hero does have a definition.
All right. Well, that's cool. But what I was saying is that Batman, like, nobody ever says Batman's not super. If they are, they don't know what the word superhero means. Like, I know, we don't. None of us have our phones. So we can't look up the dictionary definition, and it might mean you have to have powers. I don't know. I've never looked it up, but Batman is positively a superhero, and Black Widow is too. Like, and yes, Black Widow would get flicked by Thor and die, but like that type of power difference, it gives you things like in Age of Ultron, where a Hawkeye has to give this little pep talk to Scarlet Witch to like go fight because she's so strong, and he's like, you have to get out there, because she's like a teenager and she's super like scared and stuff because she's a teenager. But like he's like, dude, like I'm out here with my bow and arrow fighting people. Like I'm so weak compared to you. Like,
and he survives a lot of shit. So props to him.
Yeah, I mean
stuff.
Hawkeye's the. It's too late now to use the time.
This is one beat.
It's okay. Yeah. No, listen. What's it called? Like those type of characters to me add that human. Like Batman, he's his own character. So I'm not gonna tell him about Batman. This is about Marvel, but. Like when you get characters like that, they're interesting characters. Even Captain America, before he got Mjolnir in this movie, he was strong, but like he's not gonna beat one of these big characters.
Does he get to keep Mjolnir?
No, he returned it back to that time. That's
Yeah.
why he brought it with him in the time machine.
Oh, yeah.
Because like that Mjolnir is from their time.
That would be cool.
Because that'd be kind of corrupt if they were like, I'm gonna keep it so that time Thor can like fight without a weapon. Because then it would mess up the time.
Yeah.
But I will say this: Captain America, like he was strong. He would beat up Black Widow and stuff. But he's not like a top tier. What are you gonna do when a bunch of people shoot missiles at him? Like, you know, he can't block it. If you think about it, logistically.
I believe that happened in a bunch of the movies.
No,
where
they shoot one missile and he blocks with his shield. If you shoot it at his feet, what is he gonna do? He's gonna die. That's what he's gonna do.
He's gonna take a knee with the shield.
All right, you just say stuff. But listen, what I mean is that you have to have a power difference in characters, and it's necessary. And like, let's look at a character who they've actually depowered. Hulk. Hulk used to be like.
And Scarlet Witch.
We have a Hulk. I don't know if they depowered her. She almost killed Thanos in this movie.
Yeah, but that was after being earned. 'Cause
Yeah.
if you think about all the other stuff, like even in Infinity War, when she finally enters the battle, and they're like, "What was she doing?" You know.
Yeah, I mean, you can have that many strong characters.
Where has she been the past couple times?
That's what I'm saying, that
we got invaded.
Give me one.
Huh?
Give
the
me one
first
time.
Avengers, when those people were coming down from space.
She was a teenager. She never powers yet.
No, because I thought her movie took place way back in the day, but they invaded New York in the present.
Clay, you got me? No, that never happened.
So what time period was her movie in?
She doesn't have a movie. She's
Captain
an age
Marvel.
old. Oh! She explains that in Endgame. Like she I thought you were talking about Scarlet Witch.
I thought you were too.
Captain Marvel goes on like there's like billions of planets, so she's like I know the Earth has like superheroes. Like I'm just gonna go help other people.
She was somewhere else.
But the main stuff was coming down over
How do you
here.
know?
Like,
How do you
because
know?
I haven't seen any other
How do
stuff
you
in
know?
Guardians of the Galaxy, some atrocities happening. That's my guide to the rest
There's
of the world.
there's other things in Guardians of the Galaxy too. I mean, like the MCU is its large universe. I'm sure.
But what's more important than half of the universe being wiped out?
That's in Infinity War. I'm sure she was rushing to the flying through the galaxy like I'm coming to Earth. I missed my timetable. I don't know. I think the whole power thing is it's a dilemma, but I think they'll handle it. And I think
they've done great so far. So
should we talk about Winter Soldier and why that wasn't on you guys' list?
it was. I mean,
Oh, wait.
I
I've
forgot,
seen it
but
once.
it would have been.
What?
I've only seen it once.
Really?
I remember it being very
Rewatch
good.
it.
But
Rewatch it.
I haven't.
Okay,
It's one of my favorites.
it's
I don't
a
doubt it.
movie that really fixed.
That's where Bucky comes back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It fixed a lot of Marvel's problems. Like Marvel was a juggernaut after the first Avengers. It was like this is the studio to be. Then they came out with Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World, two movies that for me on a critical level aren't great. Iron Man 3 made money, it made $1 billion, but like I don't love either of those. It did. I know. They had 8 movies make $1 billion, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
But like Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World, like even when I was rewatching, I was like, dang, I have to watch these two movies in a row. I don't like either of these. And then you watch The Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy, you're like, never mind, they still got it.
Yeah.
And then it's just like consistent, like pretty much great movies all around, except for Captain Marvel. But I
We
think
keep zinging Captain Marvel. You can't say that anymore.
Captain Marvel's the best MCU movie. But I think The Winter Soldier is the most grounded MCU movie. I'm not gonna say it's the most emotional movie. That's probably Endgame. But I think the scene where I don't know if you guys remember, but it's when Bucky's kind of like punching him, and he's like, "I'm not gonna fight you. You're my friend." And he's like, "Oh, he's like, you're my mission." And he goes, "Ah," and then he's like, "Then finish it, 'cause I'm with you to the end of the line." I might shed some manly tears in that moment. Get some goosebumps. Because that was such like a Captain America thing. Like, yeah, I never give up on my friends, even if they're trying to kill me. And it's a callback to an earlier scene in that movie where Bucky says to him when like they're in World War II, like, "I'm with you to the end of the line." So for me, that type of stuff is why I like the Russo brothers the most. They have like these very human stories, and I think the last action sequence in Civil War, because everybody talks about the airport sequence, which is this craziness extravaganza. When you get the last Iron Man versus Bucky and Cap, it's so emotionally charged. It's so well scored, but it's so like also just sad because you're like, dang, these are like my two favorite characters probably, and and they're just like fighting each other because this guy would not tell him about his other best friend killing his other best friend's mom, and like that's messed up. But do you blame him for not telling him about that? It's like those type of decisions that people would make in real life are the reasons I think these movies appeal to people, and the Russo brothers do it better than anybody else do.
It's a very common decision to tell your best friend that.
No, I'm saying if you were in that position, well, I know it's not very common. So I'm saying if you were in that position, what are you gonna say? Like, hey, by the way, I might know somebody your mom's death. I can't tell you though because you might stop being friends.
Have you met my friend Bucky?
This is a good one right here. Yeah. I don't know. I think the Civil War is really. I think Civil War gets a little undervalued because I think a lot of people like Winter Soldier more, and I don't think any of the four Russo brothers movies have any glaring flaws. They have like nitpicks, I could say, but I just like Civil War a little more than Winter Soldier because Civil War has like two main characters, but Winter Soldier has one. And Tony Stark in Civil War is probably at his worst, maybe Age of Ultron, but he's made Ultron. He's screwed up a lot of times, and he's so flawed. And he's like, this is like the chance for me to be put in check. But he doesn't think about it that there are other people who don't need to be put in check. So that's kind of like showing his flaws. But yeah.
What do you think about for Winter Soldier? Because there was Falcon and Black Widow.
Oh, I love Black Widow. That movie. She's dope.
Yeah, I think I really liked her in that because
she started to develop a little bit.
And you got to see her relationship with Captain America.
One of the best in the MCU.
And that it was earned, as I said, in that way. Like, you understand why.
Is something else not earned?
Huh?
Anything you want to say that wasn't earned?
What are we talking about?
You're trying to make me say the
CM?
The C word?
The C word.
No, I mean, but that's the thing. Like,
no, you don't get the joke. We'll tell you later.
We'll tell you later.
But also, what are we talking about right now?
Okay, we're saying that in the Winter Soldier, that Captain America and Natasha's relationship is earned because of the things they went to. Well, not really in that movie. It kind of blossoms in that movie because they've only met in the first Avengers. Even in that movie, they're kind of like quippy little friends.
Bonnie and Clyde kind of.
Those are criminals. I don't know about that.
What's his name? A criminal?
Later. I don't think that's a good comparison. They're pretty good people.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, he was defending his friend.
Okay, so Robin Hood. Is that a better comparison? Because he was
I don't think we should be making these comparisons. I don't think there is a comparison that's accurate.
They were, he needed someone that trusted in him, and that,
And, like, nobody trusts her because she was, like, a KGB before S.H.I.E.L.D. And I think one of my favorite scenes in Endgame was where she's talking to him, and they're sitting down, and, if you've... I know I already said this in the last video. I'm repeating myself, but if you know the history there, you like it more. And a lot of scenes in Endgame that are like that, and a lot of that Russo brothers movies are such like critical linchpins in the MCU for like launching it forward. And Endgame was a conclusion. But like if you watch those movies, you'll like it a lot more because there's small scenes in the Winter Soldier like that. Of them talking in the car and stuff like that. But Captain America, a lot of people hated Captain America for Winter Soldier. And when I was younger, when those movies were coming out, I didn't like Captain America either. I thought he was corny. But then the first scene, he's doing like martial arts, and I was like, okay, I like this guy now. Yeah. But now that I've gotten older, like he's just a great character. But I do love the Winter Soldier. It's just such a good movie.
Yeah, I like Falcon and Winter Soldier too because
fellow veteran.
Yeah, he was veteran, and it showed that I think that's because I saw another review where they were talking about it because I didn't even think about it in terms of why he gave the shield to him. And it was more like because I think he identified with him a little more in terms of Bucky was like his best friend.
Yeah, okay.
But in terms of his heart and like in terms of who he could trust and to do the right thing without it was
having a Soviet
brainwash
program
and not a super serum or whatever like that. I mean, he was just out there fighting. So he had that courage.
We were making a joke right before we started filming again that in Infinity War when Thanos arrives in Wakanda and it's like the super ominous scene, Falcon and Bucky come at him with their machine guns.
It was interesting.
And he just kind of throws them off.
Yeah.
And Black Widow and Okoye come at him and he's just like, yeah, get out of here. Like, I'm here to fight the real fighters. Yeah. It's kind of sad, but those four got a little brushed off.
They did.
But that's Thanos for you.
Falcon came in and stabbed somebody.
That was his Endgame.
Yeah, an Endgame. I mean,
Oh, no, I'm not saying he's worthless against goons, but, like, Thanos was just, get out of my way. This is the thing, though. Another thing about the Russo brothers movies, they have great villains. Like, we all know about Thanos. I don't think there's anything we can say that hasn't been said about how incredible he is. But, like, Alexander Pierce, played by Robert Redford, he's a very good character. But I love Zemo. Because Civil War is very much the conflict in that movie arises from the heroes, but it's being kind of what do I call it? Like it's being
instigated.
Thank you. It's being instigated by Zemo, and they don't really know that until the end. But Zemo's like a very he's not superpowered. He any of them could beat him one-on-one. It's not about that. It's the fact that he's just a man who's angry that with all the heroism and all the accolades they get, people are still dying. There's collateral damage, and they just get to go home. And he lost his whole family, and that's something to him that he can't forgive. So he has to do all these things that are really bad. and we might disagree, but it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I can see where he's coming from. Who wouldn't be angry if like their entire family guy died and nobody even like cared about it? It was just like another name, and that's kind of where Iron Man's guilt comes from too. Seeing that collateral damage, you know, that guy, that young teenage kid in Civil War who dies, Charlie Spencer, like kind of like. It kind of puts a very strong guilt into Iron Man, and those things. The Russo brothers said that movie is very important because in Infinity War, when Thanos comes, like they're split, so they're not going to be able to work together, and that's why they lost. You know,
Interesting.
and they're still mad at each other at the beginning of Endgame. Or at least Iron Man is.
Do you guys think like that there should have been a Black Widow movie?
I really think there should have been. I think Black Widow's a great character. Not
one of my. I mean, it is one of my favorite characters.
You mean before she dies?
Yeah.
Beforehand?
Yeah, before Captain Marvel.
Come on. I knew you were going to say it. I was hoping you didn't say that.
But it is true. Like
the first female character,
it
kind of, I mean, Black Widow's a great character. She's my favorite female character in the MCU. I think Valkyrie's another really good character. But I love Black Widow. She's a great character. Like, yeah, like we said, she's not that strong, you know, compared to like her and Hawkeye kind of get the short end of the stick.
But wouldn't her movie, if she got a solo movie, be pretty much like a female James Bond version?
Yeah, well, that's cool. But there's the thing.
Yeah. But is that really in line with the Marvel set?
Is Winter Soldier? Is Winter Soldier in line?
Yeah,
Winter Soldier is a political thriller.
Yeah.
It
is.
Again,
Think
I've
about
seen
it.
it once, so I can't.
Okay, well, yes, it is in line.
I don't know what a political thriller means. It's like House of Cards, political thriller?
Jeez, man. I don't know what to tell you, but I'll tell you that Marvel does a lot of genre movies, and Winter Soldier is, you know, it's like the highest example because it's like there's no other Marvel movie that's really like Winter Soldier, just like there's no other Marvel movie like Spider-Man Homecoming. But like Black Widow, first of all, the Winter Soldier shot Black Widow. There's like a little scene of the Winter Soldier where she mentions that. What if we got to see that? What if we got to see her and Hawkeye meet? There's so many cool things. And if they do it right, it doesn't need to be like Captain Marvel or Solo, where they're like, oh, by the way, if you wanted to know how this happened, here you go. And it was like, oh, that's not what I wanted. They don't have to show you. They just give you a good movie. So I would love to see a Black Widow movie. You know, they are making one. You know, it starts filming like June or something. But it kind of sucks that it's a prequel of a character we know ends up dead. I mean, it's not like the worst thing ever. It's just like.
But do you think people are going to be less invested in the character?
Yeah,
I
will. I mean, listen, if Scarlett Johansson's good, it's a good movie. Like, of course, I'm gonna like it.
And will you be disappointed if they bring her back?
Absolutely. They can't they can't fix what they can't reverse what they do in Endgame. That would be so bad for Marvel to do. Like I said this last video too. If Marvel movies suck from now on, I don't care because I got 22. You know, movies of a full story, except Captain Marvel and Thor: The Dark World. But you know, I'll say that I think like if they did something like that, like by the way, we're bringing Iron Man back. It was.
It wasn't my idea to shit on Captain Marvel. I wanted to. I wanted to dump. I wanted to dump on Justice League, but I guess we're gonna do that later.
Well, that's the whole episode. That movie's awful.
Keep it Marvel.
This is a Marvel. This is where we talk about our favorite MCU movies. But what I was saying is like. You know, like in the MCU, there's a lot of characters, and like you know, they've given solo movies to Ant-Man, who gets made fun of for being like lame, and like Black Widow, you know, she's not super powerful, but she's got some cool martial arts. Like they made great action sequences in the Winter Soldier without having it be superhero-y. So I'm excited for a Black Widow movie. This is a good question. What's your guys' most anticipated MCU movie, like for the entire future of the MCU as of right now?
I want to see another Blade.
That's not gonna happen. Name a realistic one.
Why not? Blade's freaking dope.
Okay, it's not gonna happen though.
Okay, then I want to see a better Black Panther. Like a stronger. I want to see more hand to hand, like crazy stuff.
That's fair. Like Civil War more.
Yeah,
he was dope in Civil War.
Okay. I think they went maybe a little more traditional fighting, like with the.
Well, in Black Panther, he's just kind of overpowered. He's just like punches the floor. I'll say this: I'm excited for Far From Home because I love Tom Holland, Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Jake Gyllenhaal's a fantastic actor.
I thought we were just naming like fiction, like any movie.
Oh no, I'm saying that.
What's coming up in the.
And Doctor Strange 2 is my most anticipated. I know everybody I tell that they're like, really over Spider-Man and Black Panther. I'll tell you why. It has the most potential. Imagine if that movie starts from where it ends or something like that. They could do crazy stuff in that movie. Like the end of Doctor Strange, the third act, they go to like Hong Kong and it starts at the end of it and they revert. Like that type of stuff, you can't get in any other Marvel movie. It's super creative. And like if you end up doing something that is worthwhile and like cool, but also has a good story, like the Doctor Strange could be like the next guy. And he already is kind of like he's the most powerful in my opinion, even more than Captain Marvel, like who's the strongest right now, like because he's got his incantations and he's also like he can see the future and stuff, so he's a dangerous man. But they don't have Infinity War stones either anymore.
Yeah, but is something also going to change because of that?
Oh,
because she lost trust in him because he gave.
Who she lost trust in who?
I don't know the bald lady's name from Doctor Strange.
Oh, she's dead.
Yeah, but remember they went back in time?
Well, that's the whole, like, they're leaving their reality alone. They just went there to get Infinity Stones, and they're putting them back at the exact point so that the continuity in that timeline doesn't get messed up.
Time travel.
Was it the ancient one?
The ancient one.
Yeah.
Well, this is one thing. Would you say there's a lot of plot holes in that game? I hear a lot of people complain about plot holes. I feel like I should address some of the complaints in that movie real quick. I know we talked about Thor and how I thought it was a really good decision to make him like that.
Legal counsel and defend him.
Well, I gotta listen. Marvel movies aren't perfect, whatever. No movie's perfect.
No movie's perfect.
But it kind of annoys me how much, and I know everybody loves that game, but even like the two people who hate it, I have to defend it against them because I love it so much. Okay. I think the plot holes in that movie aren't super big. Mm-hmm. I think there's a couple. There's the one thing for me was the gauntlet from Iron Man. I was like, how did you make that? But like, you need the medal from the star. But that wasn't like a big thing. I think the time travel thing worked out pretty well. A lot of people say it was stupid because it was not like any other time travel movie. Mm-hmm. But I think that was good because they made it sound to me a little more realistic. Like Back to the Future, it's like if you go back in time and like you shoot somebody. Like, does that gonna mean everything gets solved? Probably not. The way I look at it is this: they never time traveled and did anything to change their timeline. They took objects that they simply did not possess. So that's like this is a weird example, but hear me out. If we went back in time because we needed a dodo bird to do something, it's stupid, but because they don't exist anymore, they're extinct. That we didn't do anything to like change the past. We didn't kill anybody or change the time or something. We just took an object and then we gave it back.
So now you're starting to talk about theories. So we could talk about the butterfly effect, where if you step
the
on
butterfly
the butterfly
effect, I know. Everybody knows. Wow, you're so crazy. The butterfly.
I'm just saying, like you can't really argue the validity of a time.
I know, but I'm saying the validity is kind of there. People are like there's so many plot. People think it's a plot hole that Captain America went back and lived out his life, and they were like, it's kind of messed up. He didn't tell anybody about all the stuff that's gonna happen, like 9/11, Pearl Harbor, and stuff. All that bad.
Well, I was like, he was asleep for that, wasn't he?
Oh, man. No, I'm talking about when Captain America goes back to see Peggy and his time.
How much did he have time to catch up for? It sounds like as soon as he woke up, he went right into the stuff and then got into Avengers and then a bunch of movies came through.
We're not on the same page. I'm saying that Captain America at the end of Endgame goes back in time to the 40s and lives out a full lifetime. He doesn't. He's not on ice. That's the other Captain America. You hear what I'm saying? Yeah, so when that Captain America goes on the ice, Endgame Captain America goes in, he's lives out his life. So people that's a plot hole because it's kind of messed up. He let all the bad stuff happen. And I was like, maybe the way he's thinking about it is that he saved his own reality and that he should be allowed to have a life because he's already saved it. And
how is that a different reality if he showed up?
It's not. Later? No, listen. That all the things that happen in his reality will happen the same. What?
I just got dizzy.
All the things that happen in his reality will happen the same in that reality if he leaves everything alone. So I don't think he's worried about it.
If he doesn't intervene.
Yeah, and he won't intervene. So he's probably sitting in the house while Peggy's at work at S.H.I.E.L.D. and he's just reading books or something. And he's a good guy, so he might have to fight the good fight. But he probably puts on a ski mask and when kids are getting bullied, he throws rocks at them from afar.
Like Mr. Incredible was?
Yeah, kind of. I don't know. I mean, I just feel it's not a big plot.
That's how Disney ties the two together. Captain
the
America goes
DCU,
back.
Disney Cinematic Universe.
Mr. Incredible.
Mickey Mouse was the rat who saved Ant-Man.
Disney just call us.
Yeah, we should work for them. But I don't know. I just think that the stuff that people nitpick about Endgame to me was a little annoying. Listen, I know people are gonna hate on every movie. I've seen The Dark Knight get hated on. I've seen Lord of the Rings, movies that I consider to just be so flawless. Mm-hmm. But you're never gonna find a movie that gets unanimous support on the internet. The Shawshank Redemption. Probably me and you's pick for maybe the greatest film ever. Yeah. I've seen it get hate. I've seen every movie get hate. It's just how people are, especially on the internet. I love Endgame, and sure I can nitpick things, but at the end of the day, it's not even. I'm not even gonna say it's exactly what I wanted, but it's exactly what when I got, I was happy. So, that's why it's my favorite MCU movie. Could we have final thoughts on what you two's favorite is out of all of them? Is it Endgame? Is it Infinity War? Is it something else?
I've just recently seen it, so I'm going to have to say Endgame right now. But obviously, I haven't seen Winter Soldier recently. I haven't seen any of these.
Really quickly, why is Endgame better than Infinity War to you two?
Well, Infinity War was cool, but I just felt Endgame was definitely. It was the whole package. It was cool and then some.
Yeah, I mean,
not negating Infinity War. It's still in my top 5. But
yeah, well, for me, Infinity War is second. It's a close second.
Endgame brought everything.
Infinity War moves at a breakneck pace. It never lets up. It's a lot like. I guess I would say kind of The Dark Knight, another very, obviously, very good superhero movie. But, Endgame was the opposite of breakneck pace. It shows people dealing with this thing in their life instead of instantly, like, actively trying to fix it because they have no way to fix it.
Yeah, but the last hour is just awesome.
Okay, well, you didn't let me finish. So I'm saying, like, it's the first hour of the movie is people dealing with things instead of, like, starting the movie, having maybe 2 seasons of that, and be like, we figured out our time travel, it's time to go. It kind of makes you wait. You know, it shows the mindset of all of its characters. And then the second act, we get crazy time travel, plus a little character development. And the third act, like you said, just craziness. And then we get, like, the last 15 minutes or so is a very finale. You know, it feels like a finale. And I think... I was going to say one thing. This reminds me of Empire Strikes Back versus Return of the Jedi. Because most people say Empire's better. I actually agree Empire's better. People hate on Return of the Jedi, though. I don't hate on Return. I love Return of the Jedi. But I think Endgame's better than Infinity War. But people like Infinity War more because Infinity War has less glaring plot holes, I would say. Because Endgame, you know, it has a couple. But also Infinity War is so entertaining because Infinity War never lets up. Endgame doesn't even start entertaining. It lets up for its entire hour of the first. It's not even the last hour of the movie. It's the first hour. And most superhero movies, barring maybe Logan, don't have that. And that's why I like the Endgame. And I know everybody's like, a lot of people can hate on that. Like, oh, it's boring. But for me, it's the opposite. It's showing you your favorite characters in the most human situation possible. That's why I loved it, and I liked it just a little bit more than Infinity War.
I'm going back and forth. I know last episode I said that I liked the Endgame better. Fluctuating now.
Infinity War's I'm not mad at people for saying Infinity War's better. Infinity War's the best villain of this decade, in my opinion. That's a big claim, but I believe that.
The Thanos' story just
fantastic.
It is, and I don't know. I might change my mind again.
So let's.
But also, I feel like the energy when you're in the theater, that's a lasting impression. When you go to see it in Avengers,
I'm gonna be honest,
people always have it. That energy was.
If I say for me personally, I had a better first experience in Infinity War.
I did too.
I did. You did too, right? I went into Endgame with super hyped, and I said last episode, I didn't even walk out feeling like as good as I wanted to. It wasn't until the third time I saw Endgame where I was like, I love this movie. I really liked it.
I loved it.
I thought it was like phenomenal by the third time, but the first 2 times, like, dang, I really wish I liked this more. But then it kind of kicked in.
I think they landed the plane very smoothly.
Oh yeah,
you can land it in the end of the flight, but it's a very bumpy flight. Yeah. And you kind of like
Well, it's Infinity War. I remember because it's Infinity War too. Infinity War had been hyped up since 2014 when it was announced, and it was like, this is gonna be it. This is gonna be everything. And I was sitting there like, having watched no trailers, and I was like, we're about to watch Infinity War. And I remember it starting with that music, that really ominous music. They're on the spaceship, and I was like, the first scene, it's like 8-9 minutes, and I was like, that was incredible. That was 9 minutes of this movie, and the movie never lets up. It's insane. I saw this guy throw a moon at somebody. I was like, I never thought I'd see that in a movie. And then the end of the movie, the villain wins, and it never once occurred to me that they would bring them back. Because in that moment, I was kind of like just sitting there like, and I was stunned. And then you walked up to me, asked me, tried to talk to me, and I was like, leave me alone. Like, I don't want to talk to you right now. I was angry. That's a good reaction to get out of your audience, And like Endgame didn't have that shocking ending, but it had a very like satisfying ending. So.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think you can make a compelling argument for either. Infinity War is a better blockbuster, I'd say. Endgame's a better film.
Yeah.
And Infinity War never lets up. Endgame.
But you're just gonna say Infinity War then basically shows more action.
It does. Yeah. That's what a blockbuster. It's that very popcorn movie. And not that Infinity War doesn't have deeper things. It doesn't have great scenes of character development. It just doesn't have as many. Infinity War's scenes of character development consist of pretty much all Thanos, and then that one scene with Thor, and then maybe like 2 smaller scenes. That's it though. There's like 3 action sequences that are like main action sequence, like 4 actually, and then at Endgame there's like 1 at the end. So I don't know. I love them both though. Infinity War has better entrances though. Captain America and Thor have the 2 best entrances in the MCU. Those are 2.
But we're talking about the entrance in Endgame.
No,
where they all come out.
That was a good entrance, but
Avengers.
It wasn't as good. The Avengers Assemble was the best moment.
That's the entrance of all these.
That was the best moment. Avengers Assemble. But if you're talking about pure entrances, Thor and Captain America. Come on.
No, I mean, they had very solid ones.
I was clapping when I first watched that, and that whole movie was a roller coaster.
Cool.
Yeah. So let's say our final. Have you finally got your 5 to 1?
Not in order.
No. Well,
go ahead.
I've been talking for like 40 minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I thought your brain's been working while we're talking.
Yeah, it doesn't mean we've seen the movies in that time to make a decision.
I thought I did a good job at refreshing my memory.
Infinity War.
1? So you're going 1 to 5.
Yeah. Infinity War, Endgame, Civil War, maybe.
All my friends like Infinity War more than Endgame too, so it should show you something.
Winter Soldier,
Soldier.
And I'm still fluctuating between Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor.
If I was picking one of those, I'd slide it to Guardians of the Galaxy because as much as I love Thor, I don't think it has that emotional impact. Like the first scene of Guardians of the Galaxy where his mom dies. That scene made me cry, man. Like with his mom has cancer, and it's a very emotional scene. And the scene at the end where Groot dies, I never thought I'd cry for a 3-word saying tree. It's the power of Marvel, I guess. But like, you know, I love the first Guardians of the Galaxy. It's such a rewatchable and just deeply entertaining
Great
and
soundtrack.
fun. Great soundtrack and a great score. And you know, the soundtrack was awesome though. Like I remember walking in and kind of make fun of it in Endgame how stupid he looks. You know,
That's one
listening to
of
that
my
song.
favorite songs too. So
That's a great song.
When they started that song,
I've never heard that song before, and I was
yeah,
like, this is a good song.
Come get your love. I was like,
You never heard that song before?
No,
Once
I
they
didn't know it was
started-
that.
F is for family.
It was that popular?
I mean, I don't know. I just think it's a funny song.
Yeah, no, that's a great song.
It is a very good song.
Yeah,
But it was such a fresh
from the
opening, you
70s,
know.
and it was just So when they started with
Dance
that, like they
Hall.
had me.
Yeah.
already. Like I'm like, oh, you picked my favorite song,
Yeah.
and then they ended with "I Want You Back." So
Yeah,
it's like,
and they had
soundtrack
Ain't No
wise,
Mountain High.
yeah,
They had
yeah.
Sweet Child, or no, Ooh Child.
Yeah.
Things. I mean, there's just so many classics. That's a great movie. For me, that's number 6. It's just got kicked out the top 5, but it's a fantastic movie.
Okay, what's your top? Did you finally have?
I
one?
kind of have an order.
Rank it,
I'm not
rank
going to
it.
stick with it. It's
Go
gonna
1 to
change.
5.
1 to
Top
5
of
is
my head.
Endgame,
Mhm.
Civil War. No,
It is these last.
yeah, that one's hard.
See, that's yeah.
I would say Civil War because I think I like the duality in that between
Yes.
Iron Man and Cap over Infinity.
That's fair.
And then I'll put Infinity War third, and then Captain America the first
Ooh,
one.
okay.
Because I can't put Winter Soldier. I haven't seen it, but Captain America
Watch
and
it when you
then
get home.
Tony and then Iron Man.
Okay, I listen. I respect both your lists. At least you didn't put like some crazy movie. I've seen people put like what's the
You
movie?
guys are lucky Blade wasn't up there. That's one of my favorite movies.
I've seen people put some wild choices up there.
Blade's fantastic.
I've never seen Blade. I
You should
know.
watch this fucking
Sacrilege.
classic 2000s
I
movie,
respect
especially with
Blade.
the tech.
Well, the
that
first
they did.
Blade came out in
It kept
1998.
superhero movies alive at one point.
Well, it kind of
Did it?
It birthed no. It birthed superhero movies. Like Blade's considered the first.
No, but I
superhero
love
film.
Blade and love Spawn. Those are like some of my two
Yeah.
favorite guys. I would love
Spawn,
to meet
I've
Michael
never
J.
seen
White.
it, but I saw a scene from it, and
No,
You gotta
CGI,
watch that
bad,
movie
awful.
again.
No, and I'm not gonna tell you that it's an
like
amazing
it's
movie,
Justice
but
League
it's,
level.
Yeah, it is. But it,
Oh,
of
okay,
course,
you
it's- but
accept
it's-
it.
I enjoyed the
That's
movie.
how I feel. You know how
And
I feel about
Spawn
that.
is awesome.
You know what movie that, and I know he's gonna get so is Transformers: Dark of the Moon. I still love it. I saw it in 2011. I was like 9, and that movie was pretty epic for me to see my boy Optimus Prime, and you know.
Not my boy. That wasn't my octopus.
Whoa, okay, and with
Optimus.
that,
He got me flustered.
I do love it. And you know what's another movie that, as bad as it is when I be watching, I still love it. Spider-Man 3.
It's
I'm
a
gonna
great
put some
movie.
dirt in your eye.
Yeah.
Some great quotes in that movie. All right. You like that, Spidey?
We'll talk about
Justice League next. We have to do Justice League with clips.
So next
With
week we'll
clips.
probably be talking about John Wick.
Ooh,
Oh,
yes.
when does that come out?
Next week. So
Really?
yeah,
Am
we'll
I
get our
in
tickets
town?
today.
That's a very good
Oh
question.
well, if not, it'll
Still-
might
you're
just be
still
me and
required
Taj.
to see it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I'll see
if
what's
he's
up.
not here, it'll be me and Taj, and hopefully we'll get like a third or fourth, some people to talk to us about it. And yeah,
I could.
thanks for watching.
I don't know. I'll be John Wick.
What?
I'll be John Wick.
You'll be John Wick?
How about that? I'll put on my suit. You know what I mean?
Your
Put
black
on a
suit.
holster and everything. I'll just come in. I already have the hair almost.
Are you guys excited for that movie?
I'm so
Very
excited.
I love the first 2 John Wicks.
They're
Such
fantastic.
creative action.
The first is my favorite, though.
I like the first
The
one.
second was crazy,
I love the second one.
But I think the first.
First
is
just has
classic,
little because I remember I actually didn't know what the movie was. Let's say this the next time.
Yeah. But anyways, thank you guys for
Thank you.
tuning in. It was a long and now very hot episode.
Captain Marvel's a
What are
great
we
movie.
calling this, by the
The
way?
MCU ranking.
And we
No,
still have a show.
Yeah,
name,
we
right?
don't have
Oh.
a show name, so
I
whatever we're
we have
calling
a
this
couple
whole
ideas.
thing.
We're developing this right now.
Yeah.
But thank you guys.
Right.
To next time. To next time.
Yeah.